Good afternoon, everybody. This is Big Chonas. Thank you very much for joining me today. Remember, you guys can follow me on Twitter. I am at Big Chonas. If you guys like this video I'm putting out here on YouTube, please do me a favor and click the thumbs up, and always appreciate the follow as well. Looking at Bitcoin here, this is our 4-hour chart. We've been watching this our new bear channel here basically act as very stiff resistance. How several times the price has tried to break through, a couple wicks here, and we're still being rejected by our upper resistance line on our current bear channel that has broken us out of our larger bull channel that we basically had been in since back in the end of in June there. So we're still watching this bearishness play out. If this continues to be a firm rejection here, there's a very good chance we're going to roll over and basically retest this middle support line somewhere back in the 6200s area. A definitive break, and we're going to shoot up and basically hit right here somewhere around 65, a little over $6,500, and there'll be a little battle there to see if it can break back into our bull channel. But we're not there yet. We're seeing kind of another indecision doji here, almost another spinning top on our 4-hour here. So we'll watch that. I didn't want to bring up the RSI here. You see how low we still are here. You see how high we had previously been back up here, and how this line of support had acted as such very strong support for our overall trend, and then we broke it pretty convincingly. And we do like to see this nice double bottom, almost an inverted Batman here. We have one here, we have one here, and we're just seeing this weakness still as we're just hovering in the 6350 area price wise, and the RSI is reflecting that continued weakness. We do have a little roll over here, so let's see if we can kind of keep this going, or are we kind of retest our 30 line here, which was broken pretty significantly when we did have our big move in price a couple days ago. We see our stock RSI here is still showing bullish tendencies, how we still have our bull cross, and we're slowly moving up. However, we do have a little notch there that could be suggesting potentially a turnover, and that would basically bring us something like that, and then something like that, and that's bearish, and we don't want to see that. So we want to see this still push higher. If these two lines cross, that could be another example of the price basically about to fall lower. So we're going to keep an eye on that for you. Let's take a look at a closer peek at just the hourly, and we can kind of see how this rejection line is pretty firm. Now we do have a bear cross on our stock, and this is the hourly, so a lower time frames have a little less meaning for something that's a 4-hour, a 6-hour, or even a daily. So something you want to kind of keep in mind there, and of our RSI as well. Now this is interesting because we see how this, I'm going to pull this line down right there. Boom. Interesting. Very interesting. So this line of support here that we have been watching for a couple weeks here into July, there it is. We're acting now as strong resistance, and we were waiting for this basically touch to see how the RSI and then the price would basically interact. And sure enough, our great support line is now acting as very strong resistance. This always tends to happen when a major support line is broken and then basically retested. So we might basically kind of bounce around here trying to break this. Hopefully we're able to, and if we're able to, a retest of this line of support will probably be in play. If this rejection holds firm and we start trickling down here, it even shows how strong this line really is, and that basically shows would show continued weakness in the price of Bitcoin there. So something to keep an eye on. We're still in this sideways neutral pattern until we kind of break out bullish or get this firm rejection happening here and go down. I did want to pull up let's see here. Let me refresh my page for a moment here. Okay, and I wanted to pull up our Bollingers and get just a sense here of how tight our equilibrium is. Again, this is the 1-hour, but on the 4-hour, you see how wide they still are. Now, when we break our Bollinger here, this is an example of an oversold, whereas if we pierce it on top, this can be an example of our overbought. We see how it acted as strong resistance here, our last little touch, broke through it. Now the price has gone sideways in order to get back into it. We do see our top Bollinger curving down, but our bottom Bollinger has yet to curve higher. For this to curve higher, you actually need the price to start shooting up here. So the overall, how wide our two volleys here are, especially on our 4 hour, it kind of suggests that we have a better chance to go up, I feel, than to go down. But how far up? And the middle BB, which is currently right around 65.50, is probably going to act as very strong resistance, because we see in several circumstances it acted as support, resistance, support, broke it, and then when it broke it as support, we now want to retest it one more time. And that's only, about $150 higher than where we currently are now. So this sideways price action is tendently leading me to indicate a small uptick here to basically kind of put this back into balance here. So we'll see if the bulls can kind of step up. Otherwise, a failure would basically put the lower BB back in play, and that puts us more in the 6,200 area there. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. I want to touch base on Litecoin real quickly, because we're seeing something slightly different. I want to extend my line here. That looks good. So, we basically had our nice bull channel. Didn't last very long. Actually, Litecoin was able to break down from it a lot quicker than Bitcoin was. So we see this constant sideways action here. We actually broke below our bear channel and were able to shoot above. Nice little impulse there, but basically that was short-lived. How was unable to close above our center line here of our bear channel. Now we're basically finding some pretty stiff rejection here on that center line. Our next target to touch is our upper line here, somewhere a little over $80. But we're still seeing this bearishness. We're seeing another cross here, other bearish turn down in our RSI. What kind of rejections are we seeing here? There it is. We're seeing a top, we're seeing a little rejection area here. Then once again, we're hitting it. I guess I can come maybe right at that. A little pierce above, and then a firm rejection there. So we're still seeing bearishness in the Litecoin here. I do want to point out our overall support here. Maybe something like that looks a little better. So yeah, you see how that broke, tested as resistance, and the resistance held, and basically ever since then we're basically in this downward declining RSI, weakening RSI. Remember, RSI is relative strength index, so you want to be kind of in this middle zone there. That will allow you to go higher. If we're kind of down here or unable to get to at least 50, just shows continued weakness there. And our stock RSI, we still say, is still bullish. We're still pushing higher here, but you kind of feel this is tiring here. And once again, you want to end the 4 hour up here. That's a good cycle end. You see our last one here did not get as high as our previous ones. And this one here, if this does top off here, will be another example of continued bearish weakness there. I do want to bring up the Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio here. Because we actually saw a little bit of a bullish divergence today, where we've been seeing bearishness for quite some time, where the price of Litecoin has actually held and gone up a little bit more as the price of Bitcoin declines. So we're seeing just a hair, like a percentage point or two, of a little more bullishness in the price of Litecoin, maybe because the 70s area, feels maybe like a little bit of a bargain, but, I don't know. I think we're still probably going lower. Ethereum. So interesting. So this was our bull channel. We were in it for quite some time, and then basically broke it pretty convincingly. So now I'm kind of looking at this as like a newer bear channel here, and we broke that, and then we were able to get back into it. So now we are finding our bottom channel acting currently as support. Couple wicks here, couple bearish wicks here, showing maybe strength is weakening. But let's hold this bottom support here for at least a couple more candles and then see if the bulls can push higher and push us back to, the 470s area versus these low 400s. Another break of this, and we could be putting the lower BB in action. Now in the 4 hour, you see how wide our BBs still are here. So this shows me we either need a volatile move higher to pull this higher, or we have several more candles of some sideways price consolidation. We're going a little closer to the 1 hour here. You can see basically very sideways. Our BB's tightened a little bit, slightly rising. We're now finding support above the upper BB. We kind of sandwich between that and our lower resistance line, which is currently acting as support. So something you kind of want to hold on to there. I wanted to briefly talk about our shorts and longs and kind of get a sense of money flow and market intent. So we're on our hourly. Let's just go to a little higher time frame here, our 4 hour. So once again, this is our channel here. We've been watching for quite some time. The longs were able to push through it. This is bullish, and they came back down. That was bearish. But they broke back up, and that's bullish. Now they came back down. That's bearish. And they're right there. A lot of indecision once again, where, the lower this price goes, the more long contracts get sold off. That's basically that money is going into the shorts. It's about market sentiment. So right now, market sentiment right now on Bitcoin is kind of neutral. We're not seeing the longs loading, but we're really not seeing them liquidate substantially. Big price movements will basically change this direction. So longs and basically bullish moves in Bitcoin, you want to see this moving higher. Right now it feels we're stuck in this wait and see pattern to see if the money flow can come back. Let's take a look at the shorts here. We've been watching this, wedge here, putting in lower highs, putting in lower lows, and we finally broke out. I'm going to go to a little closer time frame so you can see it. Here was our wedge resistance line. We touched it a few times. We broke out, boom. And now we're still kind of going a little sideways, slightly higher. So this is a bearishness. This is the sense of bearishness. I'm just going to hide my BB real quickly here. Oops. There we go. That is still permeating in the shorts. And as these begin to continue to rise, that's a more bearish sentiment in the market, where basically short contracts are being loaded up. A lot of the money is now heading to short the market, and that will put continued and additional downward price pressure on the price of Bitcoin. So we want to keep an eye on this. The shorts, neither the longs, are overextended right now. So sometimes big moves where the shorts can be way up here, a little too frothy, a little too bearish, you can get a big short squeeze, which can give you a nice green candle in the price of Bitcoin. Or our longs are really not super overextended just yet, where they're caught off guard as being too bullish. We're just not seeing that yet. So that's why we're kind of finding this kind of wait and see pattern right here in the price of Bitcoin. I did want to bring up this line here, and let me go to a higher time frame. Let's go to the actually let's go to the 6 hour, get a little bit bigger here. So just real quick here, I'm on linear. I'm using our very top here as our kind of line here, and we basically find this was more or less a resistance, a resistance, a resistance, a resistance, and we broke it, which is great. But normally when we break lines of resistance that have held for a very long time, we do like to test it and basically test it to see if it's as support. So it's a very good possibility that if this fails and Bitcoin drops, we could go somewhere there. Let me make this red because we're falling in this circumstance, and that basically puts a retest of this line here, and that that could bring us to that lower 5,000s area if that was to happen. So something to keep an eye on there. Now I wanted to bring up the linear. Now I want to show you the log. When I hit log, you see how that line I just drew doesn't make any sense anymore. So how do we use the log scale to determine kind of where our lines, our support and resistance are? So same deal. I'm going to use my nut top right here around 19,999, and you see how we have a rejection, a rejection. There is our break. There was our test. Beautiful. A little bit more continuation. Almost. Our first touch of support. held. Our second touch of support held. Now we're bouncing here, but what would a third touch of support look like? And you see it, if we decide to fall, these things fall pretty quickly here. So this is another example of a different way to look at kind of the same thing, where if we were to fall, same deal, we'd be looking to basically retest this line of support that also puts us down in the low 5,000s areas. So same chart, just two ways to look at it, log versus linear, and both kind of come us to the same conclusion that a bear break would put the $55 to $5,300 area somewhere in test. Otherwise, our bull break, we want to get back up to test here, over somewhere in the sevens. We see how this area here, right there at around 68 and change, has been just this very strong resistance area. How many times did we try and break it? One, two, we have 3 wicks there, just unable to break it, and there's our rejection. So, if we are able to come back up here for a fourth attempt, it's a very good chance that we can break through this. They say the fourth time's the charm right here. Maybe we are putting in, an inverse head and shoulders here. We do have our shoulder there. We do have our head there. And maybe this is our, boom, right shoulder here that we could be putting in. You can't really see that. Let's make that a little better. There, and we'll kind of put it center back. So, this could definitely be one possibility here. And if that's the case, we got to see if this right shoulder is going to play out, curve around, retest our neckline. And if we are able to break out of this, what are we talking about here? So from neckline to the head is roughly $1,000. So we can basically, transpose that to there, and that could put us somewhere around $7,800, more or less, bringing us back up to here, which would be kind of our next area of very strong resistance. So that's your bullish kind of best case scenario, that we are putting in an inverse head and shoulders. We're going to retest our neckline, and then boom, we're going to shoot up there. So that's kind of a good bear bullish scenario that you want to shoot for if you're basically playing this as a bullish opportunity here. Otherwise, a failure to do that and the price can definitely fall. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'll keep an eye on this for you guys through the rest of the day here. As I said, we are still finding very strong resistance right here, but we're just trying to crawl out of it. We're nothing definitive until we see a really nice green candle, and basically want to see something that's going to retest our bottom support, now turned very strong resistance of our bear channel. That's what we want to see. Otherwise, a firm rejection here, and we will definitely test our middle channel support of our overall bearish channel here. So we'll keep an eye on that for you. I wanted to bring up one more thing here about money flow. So up here, guys, cryptocurrencies 1629. 2 weeks ago, this was under 1600. So we've had about 30 or 40 new coins, new tokens that are now currently on the market, further saturating and spreading out the money flow going in the market. We have Bitcoin dominance has risen to 43.3. Remember back in, God, was it beginning of May? We were in the 30s, the mid 30s here. So you see how stronger Bitcoin has gotten, while a lot of our altcoins have basically had a pretty tough time. That's why the Bitcoin dominance continues to increase. Now, I wanted to bring up the historical data here because we're still in this low 4 billion, high $3 billion money flow here. Yesterday, July 10th, we had a little under, or right at 4 billion. Today's where it looks like on track again, somewhere around the high 3 billions, low 4 billions, and our market cap is around $110 billion. Now, you see, we got as low as 100 billion right there on June 29th. So we held 100 billion, and that was kind of our, in the past 2 weeks here, it's kind of been this 100 billion hold bounce, which is great. But currently at 110 billion. If we got back down to 100 billion in market cap, I do not think that will hold, and we're going to see sub 100 billion Bitcoin market cap, which puts a whole new price perspective in play as you think about how high we were back in the wintertime several months ago. So one more thing to keep an eye on. Whew, okay. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Remember, if you like my content, please follow me on Twitter at BigChonas. And if you did like this video, I would really appreciate a follow and a thumbs up. Until then, we will talk to you guys soon.